Welcome to this live session. I'm Gil or Gilad or Gil Shir, and in this session I'm going to talk about the wisdom of Kabbalah, and I'm going to explain it really simply. I'm going to tell you something that I learned 12 years ago, and since then I've taught this principle, and I've seen thousands of people who have internalized this and have changed their lives for the better. So especially today, especially when many of us are quarantined to our homes, especially when many of us have more free time, there is no better time to learn these principles that can really improve your life, improve your balance with nature than now. So now is a great time, and you don't have to actually change anything in your day-to-day lives in order to implement this. You don't have to make a serious transition of your routine. All you need to do is you need to learn a few things, a few principles. And just like, everyone's driving a car, you're also driving a car. Let's say this body is your car. So I'm just going to teach you where that turbo button is. So you can still keep driving your car, but you can just push that button and speed up your acceleration. All right, so hi Alex, it's Gilad. Feel free to ask questions as we're rolling. So I'm looking at the chat here as well. I have you here on both screens. So feel free to ask anything or add any comments. And just a quick reminder before we delve into it, if you can like this video and share it, that'll be great. It'll get more people to join us. So let's dive into it. So in order to dive into it, I want to share with you a short video clip, which is taken from a talent show. And you might be wondering, okay, why are you showing us, a video clip from a talent show? Here it is. It was on the Anderson show. I'll tell you in about a minute and a half why I want to show you this clip. And for now, just go with me and let's watch it. And while you're watching it, basically it's a painter who has a minute and a half to draw some painting. Now it's a talent show, so we expect the painting to be amazing, right? But let's see what happens. All right, so a minute and a half has started, and the painter, with all of his energy, is going for it. While he's painting, try and see if you can identify what it is that he's painting, right? I mean, we expect something amazing, like I said. It is a talent show. There is some talent expected to be here. All right, and as you can see, the judges are adding pressure. So far, it looks pretty much like nothing. So let's see what he can do in the 50 seconds left that he has remaining. And don't worry, I'll explain what this has to do with the wisdom of Kabbalah. As you can see, the judges are wondering what he's doing there as well. Doesn't look too promising so far. Yeah, they're thinking maybe it's a riddle. Maybe they don't get it, because so far it doesn't look like much more than some abstract painting. With 11 seconds left, let's see what he does. Okay, and he's done. All right, so 2 seconds left. What does this painting look like? What did he do there? So what do you think? What do you think we're going to see here in a second? Talent show, we expect some kind of talent. It could be a nice abstract painting. I'm not really an expert in the field of art, so I can't say if this is some genius, work of art. But it doesn't really look like much, right? Okay, so let's see what happens in the remaining 2 seconds. You ready for this? Let's do it.
3, 2, 1, let's hear it for D.
All right, there we go. There it is. He painted a portrait of Anderson, of the host of the show. So it is amazing, and he did an amazing job here. and I actually wanted to ask you a question, right? So while you were watching this clip and while you were seeing the painter starting to draw this painting, what were you feeling like? What was the feelings that awakened in you? You know, it did look like something that's maybe, you know, not exactly clear. Write in the chat, share something that you felt when you were trying to understand what is going on there, right? So there was this abstract image and we expected something to happen there. So while you guys are writing in the chat, I'll add what I felt when I watched this for the first time. It was, first of all, you know, a sense of what's going on here. Maybe he knows something that I don't know, because he's doing something which seems to me very unclear, and it's all kind of abstract, and I don't understand, you know, every brush of that paintbrush, what it's building up to. And I assume I'll wait a few seconds for you guys to write also what you were feeling. But I've shown this clip many times, and in the meanwhile I'll share with you what people say. It's a sense of lack of understanding, lack of control even, as you watch the painter do it. Now, let me ask you this question. Let's have a look again at the final image. So the final image is a beautiful portrait of the show host. So when the painter was doing it, while he was drawing it upside down, let's take a look for a second. While he was making these lines, what did he feel when he was doing every single brushstroke of this? What was the painter's feeling as he was doing it? Right? That's the second question. So our feeling as viewers was a sense of misunderstanding, what's happening here, what's he doing? Now, what did the painter feel? The painter knew exactly how every single stroke is building up to this final image, to this complete image. For him, it's not just a random stroke of the brush like it might seem to a viewer before he flipped the picture and we saw this complete image. For the painter, he is in control. He understands everything. Every single stroke that he makes, he knows how it fits into the big picture. So, this is the wisdom of Kabbalah. It's from being the observer, the passive viewer, that there's a sense of chaos without understanding how every stroke in reality is connected to every other stroke, how every incident, how everything that has ever happened to you, how that's connected to everything else. Wisdom of Kabbalah teaches you how to become the painter, to have a deep, profound, whole understanding of everything in reality, to know how every single stroke connects to the other, to look at every incident in the world that happens, including what we're in now. We're in a world epidemic, right? There's a COVID that's spreading around, and uncertainty, and like a restart of all of humanity. So the wisdom of Kabbalah explains exactly and understands where this comes from and what it's leading to. Just like the painter, who with every stroke knows exactly what he is doing. All right, so I'll just read some comments. I don't know how to pronounce your name, sorry. So I think it's Sujam Rassel Gethi. So he says, observer seeks meaning and completion. Right. And Teddy wrote, focused. And Alex wrote, things are not what we perceive them. We need to change the perspective in order to see the main picture. Exactly. So thanks for your contribution, guys. Great visual example. Thank you, Yana. Perfect analogy. Thank you, Tanya. Great. So yes, it is the exact analogy. So if we want to explain Kabbalah simply, and we'll give a lot of different variations of what Kabbalah is in simple words. So Kabbalah is becoming the observer. It's moving from the observer, from the viewer, which is passive, which doesn't understand the entire picture, and becoming the painter, becoming the owner of the situation, understanding how everything in reality fits into place. All right, so let's keep going. If you have any comments or questions, then keep posting them in the chats. So, in reality, there is actually unlimited potential. There is nothing that is coincidental. Everything follows laws. Everywhere you look around us, we see laws in reality, right? You know, if you walk off a cliff, you know what's going to happen, right? Because you understand the law of gravity. And just like this law of gravity, there are many laws around us. Some of them are already revealed to us, like the law of gravity, and some are not yet revealed to us. And others, even though they're not visible, and we can't see them with our eyes, we still know they're there, right? Like, we know that if I throw a rock, then according to the laws of Newton, I can calculate where it's going to land, how long it will take, what its maximum height is, etc., etc., etc. Right? So understanding the laws of reality is, you could say, it's like getting this cheat for this game that we call life. And everyone wants to have this cheat, right? Everyone wants to have this advantage. So what is Kabbalah? Again, and I'll go through this session on many short explanations of just simply defining Kabbalah. So Kabbalah is the cheat sheet of reality. It's simply understanding the laws that reality works according to, the laws that currently are concealed to us. And in a few minutes we'll also talk about why they're concealed and how we can unlock them. But for now, let's just take this one step at a time and understand what this reality that we're in, what it actually is. So let's give an example. Let's say you go to a caveman, you bring him in to today, and you show him a button which he clicks it, and suddenly the sun turns on, a light turns on, a light bulb turns on. How would this caveman see it? Like magic, like something, he'd probably start bowing down to you and think that you're a god, because you can create light with a button, with just tapping your finger on something that clicks or something, right? So, and why would the caveman feel that way? The answer is simple, because he doesn't understand the mechanism that works here. He doesn't know that this button is connected to an electric circuit, which then brings current through, through a coil which heats up and lights up, etc. He doesn't understand that, so he thinks it's some kind of magic. But we understand that, and we understand these laws of electricity, and because we understand these laws of electricity, we can harness them and utilize them, right? So we can build everything, even the computer you're working, that you're watching this right on, your computer or your little computer, this little computer. So all of these things are simply a result of understanding the laws of reality that we're in. So there are laws that are concealed from us. So again, let's go back to the title of this session, Kabbalah explained simply. So what is Kabbalah? It's the method of learning these laws, tapping into them, and then once you learn them, it's no longer any magic or something, mystical. Kabbalah is not mysticism at all. Whoever tells you Kabbalah is mysticism is using some new age version of Kabbalah. Kabbalah is not mysticism. Kabbalah is simply science. Kabbalists are people who identified these laws of reality, understood them, and then teach them, use them and teach them. That is Kabbalah, simply. No mysticism, no magic, no voodoo, a simple method of understanding the laws of reality. So that's Kabbalah explained simply. All right, so let's continue. What is this current state that we're in now, right? This world that we're in now. So let's take a look at the drawing board, which hopefully you can see. So, what is this world that we are in right now? So, let's go to blue. All right. So, right now, say this is us. All right, so we are right here. Now, we have all these things that happen to us, all these thoughts and all these feelings, right? And incidents, things we come across. It could be interactions with people or with objects. If I walk into a wall, I'm interacting with an object. If I read a book, that's an object. If I talk to someone, if I feel something. And all of this, which we'll call this world, is actually, Kabbalah calls it, the world of outcomes. So I hope you can see the bottom of my screen. We'll find out in a second. So this is, Kabbalah calls this the world of outcomes or consequences. Now, according to the wisdom of Kabbalah, there is a concealed layer of reality, which is, you can call it the spiritual world. But again, let's not be confused. Spiritual is not mysticism and it's not magic. It's simply defining a reality that is currently concealed from us with our senses. That's it. This is the spiritual world. And it's not only the spiritual world, it is the world of causes. In other words, every single thing that you experience in this world comes from the world of causes, whether it's a feeling, an interaction with an object, an interaction with a certain person. All of that is already an outcome, right? So if you take the gravity example, you throw a rock, then you could say the cause is the velocity that you threw the rock at, and the planet that you're on, which determines the acceleration, which the rock will fall back down, and the angle, etc. So all these are causes. Now, where is the rock going to hit? That is already a consequence, and you have no control over that. The second you've set the starting parameters, then while you're looking at the rock, it might seem to you that it's randomly traveling in space and going up and then going down and changing speeds on the x-axis and the y-axis, and it's going up and slowing down and then speeding up again, and all of that seems random maybe. But if you simply understand the law, then you know that all of that is already a consequence of the initial starting point. So it's the same in the wisdom of Kabbalah. There is the initial starting point, which is the spiritual world, the world of causes, and everything that you experience in this world, everything actually in this reality, everything that exists is a cause. Is a result of a cause. So everything we see around us is already a consequence. So what can we do about this? So it's like with the painter example. When we're looking at the painting and not understanding how one thing connects to the other, it's because you're looking already at the consequences. You're not understanding where they stem from. You don't have this big picture in mind. And if you understand the cause, then everything suddenly, disconnected things, this paint of the brush here and the paint of the brush there, they seem totally random, right? If you don't know the big picture, if you don't know the end picture. But if you understand the laws, if you understand what laws are being followed, then suddenly this paint here, it's this side of the ear, and this paint here, this brush stroke here is that side of the ear, and then you know how these things connect. And this is the same with everything in life. You could experience an amazing experience. You might get married or have a child or get a promotion. And then you can also experience negative things, which I hope you don't. But there are also negative things in life, like someone close to you dies, or you had some kind of crisis, or something didn't go as planned. And all these things, they seem random. They seem like they're disconnected, but actually nothing is random in reality. Everything is connected. So we simply need to rise from observing only this world, to also, not to also actually, but to understand the roots. Or you could say, instead of causes and outcomes, you could also call it roots, excuse me, and branches. So that's what Kabbalah calls it. It's the root and the branch. So all we need to do is we need to adapt ourselves to better understand, to attain, it's called in Kabbalah, the world of causes, the roots, the spiritual world, in other way. So again, back to the first definition. What is Kabbalah? In simple words, it's the method to attain the world of causes. That's it. That's the wisdom of Kabbalah. That's all it does. It helps you develop this sense to attain the world of causes. That's it. So, the next natural question is, how can we do that? And let's take a look at the chat. So observing is key. Yes, Teddy, observing is key, but the question is, do you have the right tool to observe? I could be trying to observe microorganisms like germs on the table here, but I won't be able to because I'm lacking the tool. I need a microscope or something to magnify it. I might be trying, let me ask you a question, all right? Let's say I'm going to tune in. I have a radio device here on my phone. Like I can tune into an FM radio. So I'm going to tune in now. You know what, before I tune in even, I'm not going to tune in yet. But I'm just going to listen. Ooh, wow, that's a beautiful song. Can you hear it? Can you hear this beautiful song that's playing here in the background? You know, it's playing, you can hear it, I'm sure, right? So at this point you're saying, wait a minute, is this guy crazy? What's he talking about? We don't hear any song. What's he listening to? Or what's he on? So I'm not on anything, and actually there is music in this room, and there is music in the room you're in right now. There's actually a lot of music and a lot of noise, and I can't hear it because I don't have a device. So all I need to do is I need to tune in to my radio, and as soon as I do that, as soon as I tune into my radio, then I'll be able to hear the music. So I just take the device that can hear it and click a button, and then I'll be able to tune into this music. Oh, there we go. So there's music here. Now, was this music not here before? Of course it was. There are radio frequencies, the waves are here, they're in this room, they're all around us. So what did I need in order to listen to them? All I needed was a device that can tune in to that right frequency in order to perceive it. So that is this world of causes that is around us. It's tuning into this, it's building this internal device like a radio that can help us tune in to the right frequency. That's it, simple as that. So that is the wisdom of Kabbalah. So what is Kabbalah explained simply? It is the method to develop this internal device that enables us to tune in, where's my pen? To tune in to this layer of reality. That's it. That's the wisdom of Kabbalah explained simply. All right? Cause and effect. Correct, Eddie. So feel free to ask questions here if you have any. All right. Do the observer also have the possibility to use any subject to observe, or only the individual? Thanks for your question, Valentine. I think that's the name. We'll actually get to that in a few minutes. We'll talk about a practical tool which we can already begin to use to tap in to a wider state of reality, a concealed state. All right. So let's keep going. So now, we've spoken about, understanding that we need to make this transition from passively observing a collection of seemingly random incidents that occur all the time around us, and transforming to a new level, to a level of being the painter, of understanding how every stroke, how every incident is connected to the other incident. So we understood that. We understood that right now we're in the world of consequences, the world of branches, this world. And in order to tap into this control room of reality, we need to reach this spiritual world, the world of roots. And we also understand that in order to do that, we need a device, just like we need a device to tune in to the radio frequency or to the cellular frequency. If I make a phone call now, then how is this device that's here in the air, how is it tapping in and calling someone? Simply because there are cellular frequencies in this room, and this device has an internal mechanism which can tap into them. So similarly, we need to develop an internal radio that will help us tune in to this world of causes, of roots, the spiritual world. All right, so now, the next natural question is, how can we do it? What do we need to do? Do we need to, change a lot of things, or maybe make a sacrifice of some sort? So I want to tell you a short story about a ship. All right? So there was this ship with millions and millions of dollars worth of merchandise. And this ship was traveling across the ocean, taking this expensive and important goods from one place, from one continent to the other. And along the way, the ship's engine died. So, with the last thrust, the ship was able to dock on some half island, and that's it. So that's where the ship made it to. Now, of course, there was a lot of stress. There's millions and millions of dollars worth of merchandise on that ship. Some of it can be spoiled. They got to keep rolling. They got to bring it, to its destination. So what do? They start looking for someone to repair the ship. So within no time, word goes out, and all of the neighboring cities and people who live nearby started talking about this ship that's there, and all of the ship repairmen start coming, and they start coming one by one, company after company, and they try to repair the ship, and they don't succeed. And then word goes out even further, and bigger companies who have greater expertise, they send in whole crews to go to the ship and try and fix it, because they know, if you fix a ship with millions of dollars worth of merchandise, you probably get something good in return. And word goes out, and bigger companies and people with greater expertise, they also try and fix the ship, but, right, you guessed it, they failed. So the ship owners are starting to be despaired. They don't know what's happening, and they don't know what to do, until suddenly this old, cramped man walking with a stick kind of walks up. They see him from afar, and it takes him quite a while to get to the actual ship, and he has this little tool bag in his hand. Looks kind of old and, not very advanced. And the old guy says, "I'll fix your ship." And they look at him, "You'll fix our ship?" He's like, yeah, I'll fix your ship. I've been fixing ships since I was a kid. Let me in the engine room, I'll fix it. And they say, okay, we have nothing to lose. So they take him into the engine room, and so he walks around there, touches a few things, listens, touches and smells, and he does some things that they didn't really understand. It seems legit, trying to get what's going on there. And then he goes to a certain place in the engine room, and he takes out a little hammer, and he gives he strikes it in one place, and bam, suddenly the whole engine roars, goes back to life again, and everyone is amazed, and they're so happy. And it took him like half an hour to do that, and everyone's celebrating, and, he's like, "I'll bill you, I'll send you the bill." And they're on their way, and, a couple of weeks later, they get the bill, and he bills them for $10,000, which is fine. They pay him, but they're just wondering, you came for half an hour. Can you maybe give us a breakdown of the bill? Why did we pay you $10,000? What was that for? So he gives them the bill, and the bill looks like this. So $2 of tapping with a hammer. So let's call it hammer. And $9,998 is knowing where to tap. So that's it, that's the bill. And why did I share with you this story? Because if we're going back to the original definition, to the title of the session, Kabbalah Explained Simply. So the simple explanation of what is the wisdom of Kabbalah is simply knowing where to tap. You don't have to run around, and you don't have to go crazy, and you don't have to change drastic things in your life. You don't have to do that. You simply need to know where to tap. Something very precise that anyone can do. Every single person has the opportunity, the ability to do this. It's only learning where to tap. So that is the wisdom of Kabbalah. So I'm not going to leave you in the air. I'm sure you already want to start knowing where can you tap. So I'm going to share with you a few things that if this is your first experience with the wisdom of Kabbalah, then even by just learning these 3 things which I'm going to tell you, 3 things, simple things, just knowing them, not even implementing, not doing anything other than knowing, that I guarantee will already give you an advantage in this life. All right? So, concept number 1. Who am I? Or to be more precise, not who am I, but what am I? How am I built? So I'm going to say it in a couple of minutes, but it really is something deeply profound, and I recommend that you really internalize it and think about it. So, according to the wisdom of Kabbalah, all we are is a simple will to receive pleasure. That's it. A will to receive pleasure. So it's called a kli. And this kli, which is a vessel in Hebrew, it's basically a desire to receive fulfillment. And every action we do, everything, simple actions like the way I'm sitting right now, I'm having my hands here and I'm putting my hands up, that's driven by this desire of mine to receive. Because as soon as I start feeling uncomfortable, I might change my position or do something else or put my hand here or take a drink because I want to constantly receive more pleasure, more benefit. So that sounds, I think, pretty clear and pretty basic. However, there is, you could say, a catch to it. Because as soon as fulfillment hits my vessel, hits my kli, so as soon as there is some kind of fulfillment, in Kabbalah it's called light. As soon as this fulfillment hits my vessel, what happens is it cancels the desire. It cancels the fulfillment. So I'll give you a few examples. You're saving up for a year or two to buy a new car, and you buy a beautiful brand new car, and it's all fresh and it smells like a new car as well, and you feel so much pleasure. But as soon as you have the car, what happens? The sense of pleasure begins to disappear, right? So, maybe a month later, 2 months later, you're already not so concerned about it, and you even pull off the nylon that's covering the seats. And in the beginning, you're constantly cleaning it, and then after a while, you don't really care about that anymore. And then, 3-4 months later, your neighbor gets a newer model, and you're already thinking, my car isn't that new anymore. Maybe I need to get a new car already. And then you start thinking of the next one that you're going to upgrade to, right? And this you can get examples like this from everywhere in life, right? You get promotion you've been waiting for years, and you think this is everything you wanted, and you get it, and you feel so great, and within a short time, that sense of pleasure disappears. And you can even take it to the simplest examples of food. You're so hungry, and with every bite you take, the sense of hunger, of pleasure, it starts disappearing, right? So there is some kind of trick, a limitation on this mechanism, which is called the will to receive. And this limitation is called that the fulfillment cancels the pleasure. All right? So this is the first concept of understanding who you are. So even by just understanding this principle, by knowing that every chase you go for, everything that you try to achieve, understanding that it won't be enough, that already gives you a huge advantage, because A, you can understand and explain to yourselves why what you thought will fulfill you doesn't in fact fulfill you. So that's already, that's something huge, because, you know, in locations where there is the highest standard and quality of life, seemingly, like Canada, like Australia, there is also the highest depression rate and suicide rate. And the reason is simply the lack of understanding of this mechanism. I think that if I have this and a boat and Sundays off and a beach house and all of these things that that people tend to have in these places, then I think I'll be happy. And then I get all these things. I get my boat and I get my Sunday golf and I get my beach house and I get all these things, and I'm still not fulfilled. And that is just, it's depressing to an extent that people, it becomes an epidemic in these places. You know, in places like Melbourne, where the living standard is really high, and Canada as well. Look it up. There is a really high suicide rate because people don't understand this mechanism. And it's a simple mechanism. We didn't explain how to change it yet, by the way. We just explained what it is. That the second the fulfillment hits the desire, the pleasure is cancelled. Right? So that's principle number one. If you want to learn more about it, then you can, of course, check out the links in the chat. And you can join Kabbalah, which is an environment of online courses and people who get together around these ideas of how to tap into this level of reality, and you can join them and study this method. But right now, even just taking that away, taking that home with you, already gives you a huge advantage. So that was number one, understanding who I am, or more precisely, what I am and how I work. All right, so let's keep it snappy. Let's go to concept number two, which will also give you an incredible advantage in understanding the reality that you live in. So concept number two is as follows. So we said, who am I? So let's ask now, where am I? Am I in front of my computer? For those of you who know Tony's Perceiving Reality clip are hopefully getting a giggle now. That's how it starts. So actually, Rachel, if you can post in, whenever you find it, the link to our YouTube video, Perceiving Reality, then check it out later, because there Tony elaborates on where I am. But for now, I'll give it to you in short. And I'll start with an experiment, because I like experiments. So this is a real experiment, by the way. So a person was connected to electrodes which were monitoring electric signals and activity. And they found that a person can interpret about 2,000 bytes of information. Is it bits or is it bytes? Anyway, you understand. So every second, a person can interpret 2,000 bytes of information per second. All right, so bytes per second. Now, that's fine. That's a number which is pretty meaningless. You know, what's 2,000? What does it mean? But when they checked with how many bytes of information that person interacts with every second, not can interpret, but simply interacts, what he's exposed to. So what was that number? Who can guess? So please guess and write it in the chat. So again, I'll rephrase the question. They connected the brain to electrodes and they tried to understand how we interpret reality, and they found that every second we can interpret 2,000 bytes of information. interpret. Right? So the question is, how many bytes of information are we exposed to every second? So the answer is, give me a drum roll, 400 billion bytes per second. 400 billion bytes per second of information. That's what we're exposed to every single second. Yet we can only interpret 2,000 of them. So putting it in percentages, what amount of reality are we really interpreting? So this is the amount of reality that we can interpret. So what I love about this experiment is that it just shows us that there is something way more than we can perceive in reality. Way, way, way more. And we're only aware of a tiny, tiny, tiny fraction of it. So where are we in that case? So in order to understand where we are, let's look at us like a black box. So that's me, or you. All right, let's talk about you. So you are a black box, and what you have is you have these 5 openings. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And what are these openings? They are 5 senses. So it's sight, hearing, smelling, tasting, and touching. These are the 5 senses. Now, everything that we interact with goes through these senses, right? So we hear something, and it's basically a wave that our eardrum knows how to interact, and then something happens. And we see something, and we touch or smell something. And all of these, they go through this mechanism. But in fact, these are not 5 openings. These are 5 filters of reality. And what is really outside? Abstract light. Endless pleasure and fulfillment. Unbound potential. That is what is outside of us. So where are we? We are in a sea of infinite possibilities and infinite potential. And how do we interpret reality? We interpret it according to 5 filters which take this endless potential and limit it to something which is a tiny representation of what is actually out there. So let's go back to Kabbalah explained simply. So what is Kabbalah? Kabbalah is a method to develop this internal device, which is really a new kind of opening. An opening that is not within our 5 senses. You can call it a 6th sense, although that's confusing, because it's not a sense like on this level. It's not like you have a microscope and you have a stronger microscope. No, it's something completely different. But just for the matter of discussion, let's call it another sense, right? Let's call it a 6th sense, even though it's on a different level. And this additional sense, what it does, it connects us directly to this light, to this, we called it before the world of causes, we called it the roots, we called it the spiritual world, and basically that's all we need. We need this device which will connect us to the understanding of the laws of the spiritual world. So Karen is asking, do our senses distract us? No, our senses don't distract us. I mean, you could say that we have a lot of distractions in this world, but it's not our senses distracting us, it's our internal will. But as soon as you hear even about the potential of this new sense, then it goes in parallel to our 5 senses. According to Kabbalah, you don't need to limit any of your corporeal desires, any of the desires of this world. Whatever you want in this world, you don't need even to deal with it. Why? Because it all talks about this world. And in Kabbalah, Kabbalah doesn't talk at all about the world of branches. It only speaks of the world of roots and how to attain it. So regardless of what you do in this world, of how you act, of how many hamburgers you like to eat in the morning, you like eating 10 hamburgers, go for it. No restriction there, right? It deals only with how to unlock this hidden layer of reality through this additional sense, like with the example of the radio. It's not that we're creating something new, it's already there, we're immersed in it, but we simply don't have the device. So that is concept number 2. Concept number 3. So just to recap, concept number 2, where am I? Where are you? You are in a sea of endless fulfillment and potential. And all you need to tap into it is to turn on that internal radio, which is according to the same frequency that you want to tap into. All right. Ramon is writing, God forbid, 10 hamburgers in the morning. Right. I agree, Ramon. But I just wanted to emphasize the point that it has no limitations on your corporeal desires. Right? So, okay, so let's keep going to the third concept. Third and last. And again, these 3 things, even if this is all you take, and this is all you learn from the wisdom of Kabbalah, this already gives you a huge advantage in understanding reality and understanding life around you. All right? So, the third concept, which is slightly more advanced, but it's very important and I think insightful as well, is how am I connected to everyone around me, if at all? So, who are the other people? Let's say, let's call it that. Or me and the others. What is this connection between me and the others? How does it work? All right. So you know how there's this conflicting sense within people that on the one hand, it's like our bodies are built for a connection. You know that. When we have positive connection with people, then our body emits oxytocin, and it makes us feel good, and it makes us healthier, and there are so many benefits of positive human connection. Endless benefits that science has found. So on the one hand, this body of ours, this animal called human being, is built for positive human connection. So, but what's the conflict here? The conflict is that on the other hand, humanity is constantly driven towards egoistic development, right? Exploitation, crises. We see it all around us. So if we're built for connection, then why aren't we just practicing this like animals do, by the way? Everyone on every level in nature does this except for human beings. And here is why. And understanding why also will explain how we are connected to everyone else. So I'm going to try and fit this in just a couple of minutes. So basically, it goes like this. Before there was time, before the Big Bang, before 14 billion years ago, there was a thought of creation. Long story short, it created a single soul. It's called the soul of Adam. We're not talking about Adam, the first person that lived, according to the stories. We're talking about a soul called Adam Harishon. Alright? Now, this soul was a single soul and it was in complete connection to this light. Now, without explaining why, because this isn't the topic of this session, so I won't explain why it happened, but I'll explain what happened. And what happened was this soul shattered into pieces. How many pieces? Well, initially 600,000 in a certain level. And then On a lower level, on the level of this world, it's shattered into the amount of people that exist in the world. So let's say around 8 billion, right? That's how many people, that's how many pieces this original soul shattered to. And those pieces are us. So each and every one of us, on the one hand, we're built from all of our corporeal desires, which are egoistic desires which drive us in this world to exploitation and taking advantage of others, etc. But on the other hand, each and every one of us, inside, we have this spark. In Kabbalah, it's called a point in the heart, right? And this point, it comes directly from here. And every single one of us has this. So we have these two forces within us. We have this plus force, let's call it, which is this point in the heart, this point which comes directly from the light. And then we have this opposite force, which again, we're not explaining now why it happened, we're just explaining what happened, because that itself already gives an understanding of how these things fit together. So every single person in this world is structured the same way. Now, in some people, this point is already beginning to be awakened, meaning a person begins to feel that all the fulfillments in this world are not enough, they're not satisfying, and there has to be something more, and that drives them to search for answers to these questions. So who am I and how am I connected to other people? The answer is, we are all parts of this initial soul. That's why we have in us this, on the one hand, this natural inclination built in to our biochemistry of feeling good when connected with others and feeling bad when we're alone. You know, loneliness is the #1 cause of depression. So our bodies are built according to this mechanism, which has the root of the soul of Adam HaRishon, of being one, being connected. On the other hand, we're all wrapped around this egoistic shell. And that's why when we want to start connecting these points between us, that's why it has so many benefits. Even on the lowest level, corporeal benefits, you know, health benefits, creative benefits, monetary benefits. People who are connected are better at their business, have greater, stronger businesses of people who are connected. And all of this stems from this principle of the soul of Adam HaRishon, that we used to be a single collective soul, and this shattered, and all of the wisdom of Kabbalah. Again, Kabbalah explained simply. So what is the wisdom of Kabbalah? It is the wisdom of how to reconnect the collective soul. And by doing that, we are able to tap in to a higher level of reality. So those were the 3 things that even if you just take them, then I think it'll already add a lot to your life. So #1 is knowing who I am, how I'm built according to a desire that reaches fulfillment and the pleasure disappears. And #2, understanding where I am, that I'm in a world that I don't even know what it is. All I see is what is painted to me through this mechanism in my brain, which draws a picture of reality. But what is actually in reality, I have no idea. So it's something that's abstract, that's simply light. And everything we see around us is limited by the filters which are called our 5 senses. And all we need to do is to develop another sense which will directly link us to a higher level of reality. And #3, who am I and who are the people around me? So both myself and the people around me, we're all shattered pieces of this collective soul. And that is why when we start thinking of reconstructing this soul, we already begin to develop this sense and to go in balance with this force, the most powerful force in nature. So just to read a few of your comments. So Karen is writing, the world seems to be coming together now. I keep hearing everyone talking about coming together, being one world, being unified, staying connected, especially now. Absolutely right, Karen. If you check out our Facebook page, then you'll see we have a lot of videos talking about the current COVID crisis and explaining that this is actually leading humanity to a higher level of evolution. It's pushing us to find connection on an internal level. So we have social distancing, which is pushing us to find a more internal level of connection between us. So we have, all right, so we have some nice discussions here as well in the chat. It's great to see it, to see Jack and Mila and Eddie all discussing this in the chat. So we're going to conclude now. And I hope you enjoyed this session. If you did, then please like, share the video, subscribe. And of course, if you check out the links, then in them you'll find how to join our amazing Kabbalah environment that offers rich materials that talk about how to develop this additional sense, the spiritual sense, how to tap into the control room of reality, and how to do it with like-minded people who are also seeking this same truth. So I hope you enjoyed it. I definitely did. It was great to be with you. See you guys later.